everyone. Welcome to the Brendmo Business Hub channel. So today we are joined by Mollen Mukuze. She is the Managing Director of Brendmo Inc. and Brendmo Advisory. And today she is going to talk to you about business processes. Mollen, I know you've got this big interest in performance management and business processes.
Yeah.
And I think today you decided, okay, you're going to grace us with knowledge on business processes.
Yes.
You know, what is it?
Yeah.
How do you put it in your organization? How do you make sure that the people in your organization follow these processes and policies and procedures?
Yeah.
Welcome, Mollen.
Thank you very much, Mercy. Thank you for that welcome.
Yes. So, I mean, you have been working a lot with organizations,
Yes.
small to medium enterprises,
Yeah.
and you have come up with, I would say, a good solution
Yeah.
on how to scale
Yeah.
small businesses to become big businesses.
Yeah.
And you have put up, suggested
Yes.
a lot about processes. You know, there is a man called Strive Masiwa.
Yeah.
He's a billionaire,
Yeah.
one of the top billionaires in Africa. And he always talks about people, process, and product.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, he always stresses the importance of processes.
Yes.
And I think that's what you want to talk to us about today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think just to start off, Mercy, it's good to define what are processes that we are talking about, because I think, as you mentioned, as a billionaire, of course, Strive have seen that these are the core things of growing a business, and one of it is process. So now someone might ask, what are processes? Standard operating process. So in process, when we're talking about processes in a business, we are talking about step-by-step guide or instructions on how employees or how the workers or how the organization needs to do a certain task.
Yes.
So it's especially for those routine tasks, there should be a step-by-step guide. Let's say you are in a manufacturing, a step-by-step guide. What do you mix X with what to get what? So processes in my own words is the step-by-step guide or instructions on how you perform a task or a service or a product, if it's manufacturing that product or is distributing that product, or if it's a process of a process of recruitment process, how do you do? So it's like the way we do things here.
Yes.
That's a process, basically.
Yes.
So
I think in most cases, what they call them standard operating procedures.
Yes, standard operating procedures.
Which is actually giving that detailed instruction on how to do things within a specific area.
Yes, within a specific area, within a specific department, within a specific area within that department. Yeah.
Okay, so in the private sector and the public sector, you often find that people do not have these standard operating procedures. Yeah. So how does a company begin creating these standard operating procedures? And what are the key elements that should be included in standard operating procedures?
Okay, so it's a very critical. I think you mentioned that you find that especially in the growing business, that's why we are strongly helping business to grow in that area. So there are core key areas. Someone will say, no, we have processes already. But when you look and review the process, they don't include the following key elements that I'm going to talk about. So to start with, you need to actually do a mapping. You need to identify the steps. Then you map and the key processes that you follow for you to achieve a certain objective. So one key element that you need there is who does that?
Yes.
Who is responsible for? Who is the process owner? Who does that within the process? Not necessarily to mention the names of the people, but the name of the role or the responsible part to do that particular task. So it's very important your who, when, how often do you do that? At what point would that be? Would that process be needed? Let's say, for example, it's a recruitment process. As when you identify a need If you identify a need, an advert has to be activated. It's when. So when do you activate that? And also, what do you require, like resources, like your inputs? And at the end, what is the result, which is the output? So those key elements, who does that, which is the owner or the responsibility, when is it activated, and what are the inputs and what is the output, as well as the decision making. Yes. So are you going to does someone have an input into you doing that? Yes. So key decision areas. Yes. So those are the key elements of a good process.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a challenge. I think even in the public sector, yes, you find that you think that the public sector is heavily regulated. So yeah, sometimes they're forced to have these,
standard operating.
Yes.
Yeah,
but you can find that it's also a challenge there, but it's even a bigger challenge in the private sector as well. Okay, that was good to know. Can you also give us like examples of how SOPs can differ between departments within the same company? Okay. Let's say I'm looking at human resources. Yeah. On the other hand, I'm looking at operations. Okay. Maybe production, manufacturing, and so forth. Okay. Different parts of the organization, but still they need those SOPs.
Yes. So you see, an organization is made up of different parts, like what we are saying, departments and divisions that are performing different tasks for the one objective, obviously, of company growth or to meet the goals of the company. So you find, let me take an example, like in a manufacturing. A manufacturing environment, they work with machinery. So you need standard operating process. That's why even when you buy equipment, there's that manual.
Yes,
There's that manual to say, you press this button, put this on, and all those kind of things. Yes. Similarly now, when it's there, you now need to say, who is responsible to press even that button?
Yes.
Who should? So because you don't want someone who doesn't even know how the machine to operate, and that person is already running the products. So it's very, very important, like in a manufacturing or operation, in a manufacturing operations, you need to know what are the safety features, who operate what quantities of things are this person going to mix. Yes. So that's a operation division within a manufacturing plant. Then you come to say there's the HR department, for example. HR department has the hiring processes, is also even your recruitment, hiring and selection, the process of that, of getting people on board. Yes. What do we do? Do we advertise internally? Where and how? And who has the decision for that? That's an HR recruitment and selection process. So you find that in the whole organization, the divisions, and even within the department, there are sub processes that needs to be documented, so that at least the organization can actually grow to the next height.
Yeah, and I can imagine even within that there's certain compliance, elements and regulations, that govern the activities in each department. Yeah, and those can be different. Yes. So those regulations, I suppose, and whatever regulations need to be incorporated in those standard operating procedures, so that there is compliance.
Yeah, so that because other SOPs are actually there because of that regulator or the regulation requirements. So it's very, very critical.
Cool. Okay, that's very, very important, very insightful as well. So what are some of the common challenges companies face when implementing these SOPs, and how can they overcome them?
Yeah, so I think especially if you are transiting as a growing entity, so there are common challenges that growing companies, startups that are going into growth phase. One of it, which is critical, is the resistance from employees. So now you have 20 people. Each and everyone do whatever they think is right, even though you find out maybe you have a lot of wastages or you have a lot of inefficiencies that are happening there. Then when you decide now to implement that, you can face a lot of resistance from employees. So that's a very common challenge. But however, how then do you eradicate that as a company? So involve everyone. in the development. Just go and say, okay, how do we do things here? People write down how they do that. Then you say, okay, guys, let's take that and that. What are the risks around the way we have been doing? And what is what can we put in place? So involving helps with buy-in to eradicate the resistance that you can actually get from the processes as well. Another challenge, Mercy, that I can think of is especially in public sector, you find out that the SOPs are there, but they were done in 1920.
Yes, a long time ago.
So there's no regular review. So you find out that what's actually on the ground is different from what's on the paper.
Yes.
And what actually people are even using is different from what's the technological things that they are actually using now. So it's a big challenge that SOP is not a document that is there that doesn't need revision. It's like your policies. You need to review your SOPs to current situation, even your policies, to say, okay, are there any changes in the governance? Are there any changes in the laws? And review. So it may be from operational perspective, if you have, operational manager, right? That's their responsibility to say review. You need to have visions that is going according to time and according to where you are. So those are the key two challenges that I can think of now around processes and implementing them in the business. So the absence of regular reviewing to see are they matching, and actually even I can just throw in Mercy to say you can have that and think if people are doing that. The internal follow-up or monitoring that whatever you have said you are doing, is that what you are doing? Which means the performance around if the processes are working. And if people are really following, and we can actually easily link it to internal audit. Because internal audit does the audit processes. Basically.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, internal audit has become quite important in organizations. And, the auditor comes, and without processes and policies, sometimes they don't know where to start. In terms of how do we audit this organization which does not have any processes or policies documented? So,
I had another organization that I was doing audit for. So, first of the thing is to say, what are your policies and procedures? Then there's nothing. So how do we then have a standard of saying this FM, what he did is against what?
Exactly.
There's no benchmark.
Exactly.
So which is quite important.
They are more like dumbfounded, let's just say.
So
when you look at standard operating procedures, I mean, how do they impact a company's ability to scale or to grow its operations?
So I think I'm going to go back to an answer to say why. What do standard operating procedure do to an organization? So first of all, it's standardize how we do things. So it's standard. So when something is standard, you kind of have outcome. You can estimate the outcome that you want out of that process. So if you do have standard, you can predict, even making decisions, from following this process, this is our outcome. So there is that standardization, and also efficiency. You know that given what may be, this is what you're gonna get. Take a look. If let's say you are in manufacturing something, for example, if you mix A and B, you know the outcome. If you mix D and C, it may be a different outcome from A and B. So that way you know that the organization is growing. But in my language, I can say if you don't have that, it's like wapusa. I don't know how to actually interpret that in English. It's like you do what you want. So which is actually a challenge in an organization. So if you do what you can, you can grow. There's no predictability and productivity. You can measure it, and you don't know the outcome of tomorrow's actions. So actually, the other thing as well, Mercy, people leave. People leave organizations. So and new people come in. So you don't want to, or you would want people to say, even in the induction, this is how we do things here. So it's a way of properly even inducting people and making sure. So if that is not in place, imagine the time that you would need to induct that person to produce the exact outcome that you need or in that process. So it's a way, it actually impacts business growth because it's like a way of organizing things for efficiency.
So I think you're right.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, you want to be able to keep the knowledge of the people that have left your organization.
Yes.
So that knowledge can be documented and can be passed on to the people that come.
Yes.
That institutional knowledge is very important.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, on that note, you have just reminded me of another client of mine who said we had a very good, they're in the mixing of paint and stuff like that. So they at some point they told me that they had a very good person who was doing something.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Imagine when that person is tendering their resignation. And that thing is, let's say, if that process was not documented, then now the quality all of a sudden is going to go down.
Yes.
And what are the clients going to say?
Basically, you as a key man.
Yes.
That's a key man for you.
Yes.
And it's a problem with smaller businesses.
Yes. Yeah. So it's actually a problem. So that's why these standard operating procedures and processes are very key to small businesses for continuity.
That is so
very important.
Yeah. Very important.
Yeah.
So now looking at technology and software.
Yeah.
How do you think it could play a role in sort of implementing these SOPs, in the modern business environment?
So you find out that there's the thing, buzzword, automation.
Yes,
right?
automation.
So you find out that now when some processes you can just automate and you can use the tools like softwares to help you streamline your efficiencies around that. So I actually think that now it's now easier, to do business than before.
Yes.
Especially when you look at your process, how can we, that the review that we talk about, how can you do things better now? Then you find ways of automating some of those processes using maybe your softwares that are readily available. So softwares and tools help a lot in making sure that the process is actually smooth and are documented well. Yeah,
I think I've seen that now. I mean, you even have in business where they're using apps.
Yes.
Normally you didn't have, apps was more for social media. Social platforms were the ones that were using apps.
Yeah.
But now you've got people talking about apps in business.
Yes.
It's no longer just software.
Yeah.
People are even talking about apps.
Yeah.
So you can see that the business environment is changing a lot.
Yeah.
And now with artificial intelligence coming in as well, it's bringing in another layer of automation.
Yes.
Which will help even with business processes as well.
Yeah. So I remember at some point there was a company that actually approached us to say, guys, how are you saving your things?
Yeah.
So meaning to say we have a process and we had that manual. Okay, we get bank statements, we do this, we do that. That's a process.
Yes.
Documented to say for us to get a management account, this is the process that we need to go through. They say, no, let's automate this and this and this. So automation and softwares help in a great deal, especially on how to do businesses.
That makes sense. So when you look at small businesses, what is the benefit for small businesses in terms of implementing the SOPs? And what's the best way to start?
Yeah. So, what the key things for business, entrepreneurs or even business need to know that there are two core things that you need to look out for. And should you need to start documenting the process, those are the core processes that you need to start documenting. Processes that touch on your customers.
Yes.
Right? Processes that touch on your operations. How are you going to produce whatever you are producing?
Yes.
That's very core on your operations. So you see that small businesses, sometimes they lack the consistency in providing similar service.
Yes.
Yeah, we have core people here that run different divisions. If there's no process, if that core person is not there, the consistency, and people, your clients and your customers are going to feel it.
Yeah.
So which is critical. Yeah. Your core processes that directly impact your customers need to be developed so that you maintain consistency. You don't want, when Mollen is not at Brendmo, the product that you get is is low. You get what I'm saying? Which means
Yes.
there's no processes there
Yes.
of how are we going to deliver. So which is the key things, especially in small business. So also quality control.
Yes.
You know, we talk about consistency.
Yes.
Consistent delivering quality.
Yes.
But now the quality, how do you control the quality? So it's also another element that actually small businesses need to look at, because those are the killers. Those are the business killers
Yes.
of thing. And obviously we look at as the business grows, efficient ways.
Yes.
So if you don't review your process, you might be doing something manual, yet you don't need to, and you're taking so much time, and you can't really increase your price for you taking time. But because you're not moving with time, so as a small business, you need those aspects to be in place so that you benefit from the implementation of SOPs. Regularly review for efficiency, for growth. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I mean, looks like there's a lot of benefits a small business can have.
Yes.
And just in terms of scaling.
Yeah.
You know, that would be very important.
Yeah.
So can you discuss also the importance of training employees, you know, on the new SOPs and then monitoring the adherence to these?
Yeah, so I think we recently did a video with one of the internal audit experts as well about internal audit. Internal audit is like a monitoring tool to see are the processes the same, which I think is a need.
Yes.
Kind of say in every conversation that I have in the studio to say everything seems like it's a need everywhere.
Yeah.
So you see the importance of training the team, like when we say process of implementing them, have a buy-in.
Yes.
So obviously when you are reviewing, you are buying in. You are training now. The core people, guys, new people that are coming, these are the standard operating procedure. Go through that. It's very, very core, and it's very important, so that at least the employees are always aware.
Yes.
So, but you don't end from there, because people are people. So you put a procedure, a policy, and whatever, but somehow, somewhere, someone might decide not to follow. So it's your responsibility to also put a layer of reviewing. Is this working well? Because that's a quality control. That measure that you can do. This process. So I actually think that some people say audit is not necessary, but I think internal audit, especially when you're a small company, put it. This quarter, I want to audit my process for this. So that you are sure that the processes are being implemented, are being followed, which is very important as the business grows. So I think employees need to be trained on how to, need buy-in into the process, need actually to be involved in reviewing. Guys, let's review. Are we still doing that? What else have we added here? What else can be replaced with what? So that is core, so that at least people will be able to follow through those.
I mean, I can imagine this also feeds into performance. If you don't train me on something, I have a basis to say, no, but you didn't train me. So how are you measuring my performance? You never told me how to do this. So it becomes a catch-22.
You don't want, especially when you are still growing, you don't want to spend time discussing that. Because it means that the growth of the business is being affected.
It's like, you know, you give me the tools, then I'll give you the output. Okay, thank you for that. I mean, that is very insightful. I mean, now when you're looking at SOPs, what are the legal implications of not adhering to SOPs, especially in highly regulated areas?
So I think industries that I can think of, because we play quite a lot in insurance industries and also in legal industries. So you'll find out that in insurance, they actually have like regulatory standard operating procedures, that if you're an insurance company, there's a way that you need to get information from individuals. So for reasons, you need the ID, you need to put the ID of that person, you need the address or whatever, how you're documenting that policy. So when you are now auditing those sort of insurance sectors, there's, for example, Section 19.3, which has different controls that need to be in place. So not adhering to such regulatory environments can lead you to your license be revoked, you know.
Like the example you just mentioned, is that like the Poppy Act.
So you see, because there's a certain way you need to keep certain information.
Yes.
And if you don't then if you don't adhere to those standard operating, how you store information, how you do this, you can actually lose your license. So which will impact the organization. So I know regulatory environments like insurance, they are key on that, on how do you do what. And also lawyers, because they are in a position of trust. They keep trust funds. How then, what are the standard procedures or standard controls that you need to put in place for you, for the customers to be happy that their monies are safe? So which is critical. So imagine now you are in that regulatory environment and you don't adhere to the standard operating procedures, because they tell you, according to these monies, you need to balance your books every month. And you are a lawyer and you are not doing it. So the minute you are found, you're not going to be operational. So which will actually affect the whole organization. So in regulatory environment is key and is core.
I mean, I can imagine, like lawyers, they could lose their, license to operate. Like you're saying, they are registered professionals. You're looking at even chartered accountants. Us who are chartered accountants. We have these regulatory bodies that actually govern us as professionals. Because a lot of people look at service providers such as financial services and insurance, but then there's the professional services. Like lawyers, chartered accountants. They belong to certain boards and regulations that they must follow. I mean, now you're having people losing their CA licenses, or you have accreditations and so forth. So it's become something that every business person needs to look at, not just in manufacturing, not just in highly regulated. I mean, I'm a chartered accountant, and currently I actually feel that my profession is highly regulated at the moment. And these are areas where traditionally, you've got the bookkeeper, you've got the accountant, and now that there's even a war around. Are all accountants being regulated? Why am I, as a chartered accountant, being regulated more than that business that's running accounting services? And now it's like, but we are providing the same services, but mine are more regulated than the next person. So the question is, it kills my competitive edge sometimes.
Because
it kills my competitive edge that I have to adhere to all these regulations that my competitor is not is not adhering to. So they are more flexible with the service lines that they're doing and how they do it. So I'm thinking, okay, let's all get regulated.
Actually, I think every product or business should be sort of regulated somehow. So to standardize the playing ground, which is very important.
And I'm paying subscriptions for this regulation on top of that.
I think we need an advocate there.
I think I would advocate for this motion. Okay, I think, thank you so much, Mollen, for your insightful, knowledge in this area, and just sharing some of that with us. And I think just encouraging, small businesses, big businesses, to make sure they've got their processes in place and their standard operating procedures. And I think they can scale from that. Thank you so much for that knowledge. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mercy. Thank you to our viewers as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, viewers.
Okay.
All right.